Welcome to the County Manager's Report. I'm Lloyd Higuera. With me is Douglas County Manager Steve Mokrohiski. And welcome, Steve.
Thanks, Lloyd. Great to be back with you. It's been a while here.
It has been a while. We're going to cover two meetings today, September 5th and September 19th. So I think we better get going because
Let's
we got a
dive
lot
right
to
in.
cover.
Okay.
Yeah. And water, as usual, tops the list.
That's right.
Yes. And at that September 5th meeting, commissioners voted to take over the Sierra Country Estates water system. That's a failed water system. And they also voted to establish an enterprise fund for the finance and operation of the system and authorized a temporary one-year fund loan of $100,000 for the operation of the water system. Now, they also had some more to say about it at the meeting of the 19th, but why don't we start by covering the basics of the meeting of the 5th.
Sure. There was, as you say, a lot of action, and I think the public is now becoming aware of the discussions that we've had and the issues related to this particular private water system that's now a public water system owned and operated by Douglas County. But it's an extremely complicated issue. It's a small residential development, and it was operated privately by the developer and a private entity. A number of alleged violations from the state that were made on that system, that there are issues that needed to be corrected. Those issues apparently were not rectified by the provider of the operator of the water system. There was litigation involved in that process. Ultimately, the county's role here was that the state, Nevada Department of Environmental Protection and the Division of Safe Drinking Water came in and said, this is a failed system, action needs to be taken. The county, Douglas County, was in the position of being forced to take over the system unless it accepted the system voluntarily. And ultimately, our staff and the Board of Commissioners agreed that accepting this failed water system and having ownership and control of its future, as opposed to having the court force it and the state agencies force it on the county, was preferable. And so our Board of Commissioners did vote to accept the water system. And so there have been a number of actions, as you say, on September 5th. And this is a long, drawn out, there's a lot more complexity to the issue than I've shared with you here. There have been issues between, I think, the residents and the developer over many years. And I think that at this point, the residents have been working with Douglas County in a good faith manner to try to rectify that situation. We still have a lot of issues that have to get worked through. There are repairs to the system that need to be made. Our staff, our utility staff, are currently analyzing that situation. There are past bills that are due that have to be paid. There are loans, interfund loans that the county has transferred money in for cash flow purposes, money that will have to be repaid to Douglas County and taxpayers as a result of that. There are interim water rates that have to be established, and we can kind of go through some of these, but it's an extremely complex issue, and from our standpoint in Douglas County, we're not really interested in litigating the past issues that were there. We are interested in working with the residents and our staff and our elected leadership to rectify those issues and begin to put ourselves and the residents here on a course towards getting the water system in compliance, having good, safe drinking water and infrastructure that is in compliance with state and federal regulations. So that's what's happened here. The board, again, has voted to acquire the water system. They did at the September 19th meeting then vote to purchase essentially the system, which means that we purchased the assets and the liabilities of that system, and now we will go through the process of dealing with that. So we've established within the Carson Valley Water Enterprise Fund, the Carson Valley Water Enterprise Fund, which is a independent enterprise system fund to account for all the revenues and expenses for the East Valley, West Valley water system, Job's Peak, Sheridan Acres water systems. It's now one fund. we've established a division within that fund, a separate accounting for the Sierra Country Estates water system. That accounting system has been established. It's in place. We're in the process of transferring the funds, the interfund loan that has been made from the general fund that'll get paid back into that account. And so it's important, I think, for all of the residents in Sierra Country Estates, as well as the residents in the other county water systems and other taxpayers who may not be on a county system, to understand that the Sierra Country Estates water system will be accounted for independently of any other water system for the time being, until we determine it would be appropriate to roll it into the other systems, if that decision is made in the future. That has not been made. So that's important, that it's separate and independent accounting will be made for this new public water system. And then, as I said, $100,000 in an interfund loan from the general fund. We have an interfund loan account, and the purpose of that account is to transfer money between different funds for cash flow purposes, and then that money is paid back to the general fund within a period of time. So that money has been transferred. And then at the meeting on October 3rd, our staff will present various scenarios for interim monthly water rates for Sierra Country Estates. So I think those, we'll also talk about the outstanding bills that are there, that we've acquired, that we've negotiated down, and we're paying off those bills, and then that the intent that the board is, the action the board has taken is for the Sierra Country Estates water system residents to pay back the cost for those bills, as well as the interfund loan and any of the costs to maintain that system. So I think there's a lot more to this, but I think those are the important things for the general populace to understand. I also think it's important for people to understand that from the county's perspective, there's no interest in making anyone the bad person in this. We're not pointing fingers at residents or developers or any of these kind of things at this point. Those issues may be dealt with in the courts, and they may be dealt with in the court of public opinion, but for our standpoint, we're only interested in rectifying the issues that are in front of us. So I think that covers the kind of the general scope of.
Okay. This is a very complex issue, as you pointed out. And I think what people basically have a misunderstanding about is, why does the county take over all these water systems? And when they fail, failed water systems. And really, the county has no choice.
Right.
Now, the commissioners decided to shortstop things a bit by taking it over, saying, we'll take it over. But if they hadn't have, the court would have come in, and the court would have demanded that the county take over.
That's right. That's a position that we were in, and that's a fair statement. The county has in the past been in the position of acquiring other private water systems that were privately developed and privately operated. And in some cases, those systems, the operator did not make the investments and recover costs for capital investment. They became failed, or there were issues with them, or for whatever reason, they were transferred then to the county. The county had a responsibility on some level at some point in time to take over those systems. And that's what we do. That's why you have levels of government, particularly at the local level, is to maintain public health and safety. There's nothing, I can't think of any other service that we provide that is as critical as providing, you can live, you can't go 3 days, I think is the rule. You can't go 3 days without clean water, or you're going to die. So this is a basic right of life, and one of the county's core responsibilities is to ensure that our residents have safe drinking water. We don't regulate, and I think that's a distinction that's important also for people to understand. Is you've heard some folks say, well, the county failed in its obligation to hold the developer responsible for this failed system. Well, that's not the county's role. That's the state's role. The state regulates. This is why you have a Nevada Department of Environmental Protection and Division of Safe Drinking Water that regulate public and private, and a Public Utility Commission that regulate public and private water systems. And they analyze these systems, they track these systems, and they review data from these systems. And if there's a violation of state or federal law, they issue a violation. In some cases, Douglas County has received violations for water systems we operate, in other cases private water systems that receive violations. The standard is always higher, is typically higher for public water systems than it is. So oftentimes you'll see a violation offered by a state or federal agency on a public water system, and you won't see the same violation made against a private water system. Nonetheless, it's the state's responsibility, and in some regards the federal government under federal laws, to regulate and ensure safe drinking water, and then it's the county's responsibility to provide those services where appropriate for its residents. So that's our role here. I think the county is playing a critical role, and I understand that there's a long history here of acquiring other private systems and the challenges with that, but the reality is it's a responsibility that the county has, and we will uphold it here, and we're doing everything we can to do our due diligence and work respectfully with the residents and of this private community, previously private water system, as well as understand the concerns from other residents. So we'll keep working on those issues.
Okay, well, let's stay with the Sierra Country Estates water system because it was also a topic of discussion at the meeting of the 19th up at Lake Tahoe. On September 19th, commissioners approved an agreement, you alluded to that, for the purchase of the Sierra Country Estates water system. And then this was the part you didn't go into. They approved a settlement of some of the claims against the water company.
Right. There was about, I'm just looking for about $209,000 was the total amount, as I understand it, from both legal fees and engineering fees for that private water, previously private water system. Those were outstanding bills that had not been paid by the water system, and so there was approximately $31,000 in engineering fees, and the balance was in. I should say actually $209,000 was for the legal fees, and $31,000 was for the engineering fees. Those costs were negotiated down by our district attorney's office to just over $100,000. So a significant reduction, a 20% reduction in the engineering fees, and then a 64% reduction in the legal fees. So again, outstanding costs from those that when the county acquired the system, we were obligated, when we purchased the system, we're obligated to pay those costs. And what the board has directed is that those costs would be paid again by the residents of Sierra Country Estates. And so we'll continue to look at those, how those costs get paid off when we talk about the interim monthly water rates and then longer term water rates down the road.
And that probably isn't the only debt or debts that the system has. There probably are more, right?
We're still analyzing, and we're still looking at what the cost for the repairs and improvements that need to be made to the system are, the immediate repairs, and then what are longer term improvements that need to be made. Of course, there are potential capacity issues. It's sort of at the cusp of its capacity, and so if there's additional usage or development or additional usage of the water there, then it would require potentially additional water rights or connection to another water system. So there may be a connection to another water system that would be required. So capital investment in the future that could be made. There may be other costs that will come with that. So we're doing everything that our staff can at this point to analyze the outstanding costs as well as the future costs, get a good accounting of that, track all of our staff's time for the work that they're doing related to this, and then we'll work through the repayment of those costs as we go forward.
Okay, well, we spent half the show on this, 15 minutes. And
that's how water goes.
And I guess we'll have more discussion on this, too, at future meetings. Let's go back to the September 5th meeting. And at that meeting, commissioners did approve an amendment to a tolling agreement with Riverview Partners, extending the period of time on that agreement. Could you kind of explain that agreement?
Right. So first, a tolling agreement, for those that may not know, is a temporary suspension of statutes or statutes of limitation and claims that could be arising from a lawsuit. So as folks may be aware, Douglas County filed a complaint for declaratory relief against the Riverwood parties on November 1st, 2010. We've since settled a portion of those claims for the owner's participation agreement, which was the significant piece of the $20+ million in outstanding obligation the redevelopment agency had for this development project. But there's still the development agreement itself, which has been outstanding. Have been wanting to allow the Riverwood parties to work through additional outstanding issues with Max Bear Productions that are currently in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals and the Nevada Supreme Court. We believe that process will take about 12 to 18 months, and so the board has taken action here to extend that statute of limitations on the applicable claims related to this development agreement for additional period of time to allow that other litigation to move forward. So that's really what this allows for, is just pushing out the clock, but preserving our rights in that outstanding litigation.
Sure. Well, also at the September 5th meeting, commissioners heard an update and they approved the Carson River Watershed Regional Floodplain Management Plan.
Right. This, the original plan was developed in 2008, and it calls for a 5-year update and approval. Typically we do this with our master plan and other long-term, long-range planning documents. Every 5 years they'll get reviewed and updated. So the Carson Water Subconservancy District does that, where they review this plan every 5 years. This encompasses the 5 counties along the Carson River watershed, including Douglas County, Carson City, Lyon County, Story County, and Churchill County. And it includes, the update essentially includes a progress report of the actions of the plan. It includes the floodplain mapping guidelines and hydraulic modeling, risk map charter and discovery reports, and population emergency contact information. Of course, we had the census of 2010, so there's new demographic information that plays into that. So an update there. I think the next update, of course, we're looking for will include hopefully revised FEMA flood maps that we're still working through with FEMA. So a good 5-year update, and again, this will be updated in another 5 years.
Okay. Commissioners also heard on September 5th a quarterly financial report for the fourth and final quarter of 2012-2013. So how do we make out?
This was the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013. And what we've done with this is available on our website, douglascountynv.gov. And this is the second quarterly report that we've done like this. It's intended to be really a snapshot, but as much comprehensive information as possible. So we include national economic indicators, local economic indicators. When we talk about the national and local economies, that growth is still slow and tentative, but in a positive direction. Unemployment rate is trending down. Increases in residential property sales and sale prices is a good thing. Building permits, which are a leading indicator of future growth, are much lower than they were at the height of our local economy, but they are trending in a positive direction. So we provide all those economic indicators, and then we talk about the general fund and the room tax fund and road operating and these major funds of the county. They're all, as we have a practice in Douglas County of doing, we manage our budgets in the black. We don't run shortfalls. We don't have to have, we don't spend more money than we take in, is our practice. And so that's the case, again, for last fiscal year. This is tentative at this point, as we're still reconciling the final numbers and doing an audit, which will really show us what the actuals look like. But general fund is in good shape, room tax fund in good shape. We're at about, in the general fund, 97% of budgeted revenues and 96% of expenses at the end of the year. Room tax fund, we're at about 99% of budget, and again, revenues and expenses look good, and same in the road operating fund. So, good news there. We continue, I think, to close the gap in our imbalance as we head into our budget cycle, and so we should be seeing smaller shortfalls in the future, at least in the general fund, and then we're continuing to operate our budgets in the black, as I mentioned.
Okay. One more from the meeting of the 5th. Commissioners approved a resolution to increase the speed limit on East Valley Road from 35 to 45 miles an hour. That's between Stockyard Road and Sandra Lane, and then increase the speed limit from 25 to 35 between Sandra Lane and Sunrise Pass Road. So, right. 2 increases there.
Yep. There actually was an adjustment, because when we first brought this to the board, there was some public comment from residents who lived out there, and they said, please don't increase the speeds. You know, the challenge we've got with East Valley Road is it serves as a collector road, and it really as an alternative route for 395. And so you have a lot of local traffic as well as some truck traffic that use East Valley Road as kind of, as I said, as an alternate to 395. But you also have residents who live out there, you know, and they have larger parcels and wildlife, horses and animals and other things out there. You have bikers, you know, you have people ride their bicycle out there. So there are some traffic safety issues that are of concern. So the residents said, please try to keep that speed limit down. So here was the ultimate action the board took. We will continue to have a speed limit of 25 miles per hour along Fremont Street from Johnson Lane to Sunrise Pass Road. From Sunrise Pass Road to Sondra Lane, that section will go from 25 to 35 miles per hour. And then the speed limit on East Valley will be increased from 35 to 45 from Sondra Lane to Stockyard Road. So if you got all that, those were the adjustments that were made. It's based on the actual traffic patterns and the 85th percentile of what people actually travel. And so we're trying to maintain a balance between the needs of the residents and the traveling public.
Well, when you're on East Valley Road, keep your eye on the signs, because it's going to be changing a lot, isn't it?
There is some fluctuation there, and it's, you know, continued balance here. And this is, you know, one of the challenges we have. We're kind of, you know, semi-rural community. We have outlying areas that are rural where people live, but, you know, the tendency is you kind of go fast in those areas where there's a long stretch. So people go fast on East Valley. You know, let's try to keep it at a reasonable speed, and we think that we struck a pretty good compromise there.
Okay, we have time for a couple of items from the meeting of the 19th. Back to water again. Commissioners awarded a contract in the amount of almost $700,000 to KG Walters Construction for the Zephyr Water Utility District UV disinfection project. And they also approved a temporary interfund loan of $600,000 to cover cash flow needs for this project.
That's right. And this is a project that's necessary to comply with federal and state drinking water regulations. If we don't comply with it by September 30th, 2014, a year from now, compliance orders, violations, and fines will likely result. So this is part of the Lake Tahoe Water System, Zephyr Water Utility District, and it's a part of the planned expenditures. Funds are coming from, ultimately being paid for from the state revolving fund loan program. They'll be paid back by the water customers in this water utility. And the $600,000 interfund loan, as you mentioned, again, is a loan that will be paid back to the general fund. But we do that typically, again, for cash flow purposes. When you have a loan, in this case of the state revolving fund loan, that we may not receive the revenues soon enough, we float the cash from the general fund so the project can get going, and then reimburse it through the loan funds that come in.
Now it says it's a disinfection project. What are we infecting the water with? Is that do we know what's in that water?
You know, I don't know what the what it is it's a UV disinfection.
Okay.
And we have, you know, the interesting thing at Lake Tahoe, and people think, well, it's the clearest water in the world, so why do you need to treat it? But there is some bacteria and other things that need to be treated before you can consume that water. And so there is treatment there's actually more treatment of the water, because it's surface water at Lake Tahoe, than there is for those systems than there is in the Carson Valley. So a rather extensive treatment facility if you haven't been up there. But those are the types of things that we're treating with that.
Okay. One more from the meeting of the 19th. Commissioners did hear an update on economic development performance indicators. This was very interesting. This is something new, isn't it?
It is, and this is in line with what we're doing with our quarterly financial reports. We're trying to give the public, the board, our decision makers, and the public, as well as our staff who use this information to analyze and help with decisions ongoing, to give good information from the quarterly report standpoint on our finances and local economic indicators. This report is really intended to look at what are the things that are driving our economic growth or stagnation. And so Some really good information. This, again, is available on our website, or you can call our office, and we look at wages, we look at total number of employees by industry, we look at employees in the manufacturing industry are trending up, so we're seeing an increase there. We've actually seen about a 3% increase in manufacturing wages, about a 3% increase in work sites, total work sites in Douglas County, an increase in the total number of jobs in all industries. So that's good. Wages are slightly increasing, the total number of jobs are increasing. We've seen a decline in food assistance, people seeking food assistance. So that's a good trend. That means there are more people hopefully employed, fewer people looking for public services. Building permits, as I mentioned before, are slightly trending up. That's a good, both residential and commercial, so it's a good indication of future growth. So a lot of good information here. And again, the intent is to provide this information so that staff can analyze it, the board can help make decisions, and the public is informed about what's going on in our local economy. And it does help us make good decisions about where we should be making investments from a local government standpoint, how we can partner with the private sector and other governmental entities to make our community economically vibrant.
I could see where this information would be of great interest to anybody in business, the business community.
Right.
So it is available on the website.
It's available on the website, and we're going to talk more about this at the Critical Issues Conference on September 26th, right?
Yep, Thursday.
Thursday, we have a national economist who's going to be speaking. He's spoken the last 3 years. I'm going to share some comments about the state of Douglas County. We've got the Valley Vision being unfolded. So a lot of really, and I think you'll see this reported hopefully in the local media about, it's a slow recovery, but it's a recovery nonetheless. And so we're starting to see that activity. I think we've come through a really transformative period in Douglas County through this great recession, and now we're coming out of it slowly, but we are coming out of it, and I think we're going to be better as a result.
Well, we'll take whatever we can get.
That's right.
Okay, I have about a minute left.
Okay.
Can you give us a quick preview of the October 3rd meeting?
Noxious weeds, just presentation on noxious weed control from the state and Carson Valley Conservation District and our staff. We're going to have a MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, with the Me for Incredible Youth Incorporated. So they're going to help raise private money to fund scholarships for kids who may not be able to pay to come to our community center. So that's a great thing. Everyone can have access to our community and senior center once it's built. Interim monthly water rates for Sierra Country Estates, and the Valley Vision presentation.
Great.
Will come to the Board of Commissioners as well as the Town of Minden and Gardnerville boards, respectively.
Oh, I'll see it twice.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of the community center, I heard today that it's going to be coming out of the ground soon.
It is.
And people are going to be shocked at how huge it is.
It's 83,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And this is, I was up at Kale Community Center a couple weeks ago, and they have a great sign up or on the track. It says, we're not just a community center, we're the center of the community. And I think that's a great illustration of what this is. It's not just a community and senior center. This is a place for our community to come together and interact and become a stronger community, really. So we're excited about it. Scaffolding is up.
Yep.
The foundation is being poured. Waterloo Lane improvements have been made, and so you're going to see this building now come out of the ground here over the next several months.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It is.
Well, Steve, I want to thank you for being here and sharing all this information. That's what we do here on the County Manager's Report. I'm Lloyd Higuera for Douglas County Manager Steve Mokrohiski, and we'll see you next time on the County Manager's Report.